Hey kids, we're a couple of annoyed grunt boys, and this is the 138th Simpsons podcast. That's right, we're the podcast that explores the American animated sitcom The Simpsons from seasons 11 and beyond, and the newest ones available. Why do we do it like that? Well, an entity known as the Wheel of Random has forced us to watch shows in such a manner. And also, there's plenty of other podcasts to explore the golden age of The Simpsons, that being seasons 1 through 10. So this is how we do it. And I say we because I am one annoyed grunt boy named Steve, and with me, as always, is the other annoyed grunt boy.
Huh. That's interesting.
What's that?
I thought your name was Paul.
You thought my name was Paul?
Yeah. You just look like a Paul. Sorry. Steve, sorry. I'm Craig, by the way.
Right, you're Craig, and I'm Steve. And thank you for sharing that. I've never thought of myself as a Paul, but I could be a Paul.
Are you appalled by this intro? Jesus.
I think you really missed the mark, which reminds me, I think you could be a Mark.
You know, I was thinking about your name the other day.
As one does.
I got up in the morning, as you know, this is how you start the day. You get up in the morning, you put your slippers on.
Of course.
You go to the lavatory.
Mm-hmm.
You expel whatever bodily fluids you need to expel.
Like spit.
Yeah. Cum.
Mm-hmm.
You brush your teeth. Come again. Then you go and make your coffee or tea, preferably microwaved.
Of course.
Then you make a full English breakfast. And then a full English lunch, which is just Irish whiskey and Guinness.
Of course.
And you sit and you read the newspaper. Any newspaper's fine. It doesn't have to be the current one. You could read one from 1957 if you want.
Oh, yeah.
You just need to read. That's all. It's good for your mind.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I like to read the one where we won D-Day because it's hopeful and every day starts out good.
Mine's the one where Dewey wins.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
The presidential race. Yeah. But yeah, so I thought Steve, do people name their kids Steve anymore?
I don't talk to a lot of babies, but I haven't met a lot of babies named Steve, so I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder if your name's, died out.
It's possible. I feel like your name, Craig, is a bit more modern, and I can see, a young person named Craig. But you're right, I don't know if there are, little Steves out there. I mean, there's one little Steven, but he's with Bruce Springsteen.
And a lot older than you.
That's true.
Look, I have a TV show named after me, Craig of the Creek. Is there a Steve of the Creek?
I don't think so.
Well, look on Bing.com and see if there are Steve.
Let's see, Steve shows. Because, I'm thinking about famous Steves, and,
Like Steve Allen.
Yeah. And, growing up, I got, really, connected to Steve Urkel.
Wasn't there a show called Even Stevens?
Oh, yes, there were. That's one of the famous Disney Channel shows that spawned the career of great actor and sane person Shia LaBeouf. And, of course, there's everybody's favorite Steve, Steve Harvey.
I think it's safe to say there's more Steve shows than Craig shows.
Yeah, but you still got some good Craigs. You got Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah.
Craig Bierko. Craig Robinson from The Office and others.
Okay, there's a good one. Yeah. Did you see Craig Kilborn yet?
Not yet, but another great guy. Because he's in the shows that become other shows. He was great on The Daily Show and great on the show after Letterman before it became the show before the one with James
Spader?
Yeah.
Just agree with everything I say.
Okay, yeah. I'm blanking on the British guy's name. It doesn't matter. Oh, Craig Ferguson.
Yeah.
That's right.
Scottish, see.
Yeah,
not British.
But, no, I was trying to think of James. Who's the one who just left who nobody likes?
Corden.
There we go. I was trying to think of his name because I was thinking about how Craig Kilborn was before Craig Ferguson, and Craig Ferguson was before James Corden. And I feel like of those three, Craig Ferguson was the supreme one because he was it was a weird show with a lot of fun, wacky stuff.
Yeah, he was great. But Steve, you have more famous Steve. You got Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Steve Carell.
Mm-hmm. Steve Colbert.
Steve Jobs.
And, they say that, the career that you have would be your last name. And I wouldn't have Steve Jobs because I don't want a job. So I'd much rather be Stevie Wonder because I'd rather just sit and think about things.
What things do you like to think about?
I like to think about what was happening in 2004, particularly February 8th, which just so happens to be when the episode we're talking about today first came out. what was the number one movie in the box office, Craig?
Well, I know for a fact you would never see these movies, Steve, for one reason.
What's that?
Well, it's Barbershop 2, back in business, and you just don't like that lifestyle.
It's true.
Because you're bald. You don't go to the barbershop. You're bald. You don't need a haircut.
It's really true. I haven't been to a barbershop in nigh on 20 years almost, I think.
So why would you go see this?
That's true.
Although, I think in 2004 you did have hair, Steve, so you could have seen this.
Yeah, and I do enjoy Cedric the Entertainer, who happens to be in it, so yeah.
R.I.P. Cedric the Entertainer.
Still alive, but okay.
Steve, you don't know. We record these far in the past.
That's very true. Yeah, it is. It is, September of 2023, so I suppose you're right.
No, Steve, it's not. People don't know this, but we actually are recording this the week of February 8th, 2004.
Oh, that's right. We're doing it live.
Yeah, we just recorded these episodes a long time ago, and now we're finally putting them out.
Yeah, we saw that the Apple iPod was going to be a thing, and we thought maybe they'll do radio on that and call it a pod show or something like that.
Or showcast.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of casts, I was kind of not very popular in school, so I was kind of an outcast. But I did like music. So
Hey Ya.
Hey Ya, indeed. What was the number one song on the Billboard Hot 100?
Hey Ya by Outkast. The song lives in everyone's head, rent-free. I think we all know this one. It does, after time and time again, just listening to it just, numbs your brain, Steve.
It does, which kind of brings us to the number one song on the Hot Rock and Alternative charts, Numb, by Linkin Park, and their non-controversial singer now.
In 2004?
Yeah, Chester, I think is his name.
Do you remember that fact?
Remember it. I don't know if I do remember it. I'm bad at remembering things, especially country songs. Can you remind me what the number one song on the country charts was?
I think it was That Word by Alan Jackson.
Oh, what word?
Remember.
Oh, okay. Whew. You never know with country songs.
Right. When I was saying that word references to the word remember, that also sounds like a country song, That Word.
Yeah. Freedom, of course.
Freedom or love, trucks, rodeos, that sort of thing.
Exactly. When it comes to country, everything works because nothing fails. But I don't care about country. Let's bust a move with the Dance Electric songs from that time. What's the song?
By Madonna.
Yeah, what's the song?
You said Nothing Fails, so I said By Madonna.
Oh, okay. Nothing Fails by Madonna. All right. Well, those are the songs and the movie.
They are, but I know all of those artists. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy, yeah. And I know at least two of the songs, so that's impressive for us.
Wow, we're smart in the year 2004.
Yeah, we're with it when we were in our early 20s.
We knew the hip young music.
But did we know about The Simpsons?
Yes.
Oh, of course, because that's what we do. But today we're talking about Margical History Tour, in which Marge gives the kids an unforgettable history lesson with 3 tales about Henry VIII, U.S. explorers Lewis and Clark, and the bitter rivalry between Mozart and Salieri. Let's say we give those 3 stories a watch, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Today we're talking about Margical History Tour, the 11th episode of the 15th season. It originally aired on February 8th, 2004. It is episode 324 in the show's run. Your nerd code is FABF06. It was written by Brian Kelley, directed by Mike B. Anderson, and your showrunner is Al G.
Without even looking at who wrote this episode, if I just watched it as is, I would have known it was a Brian Kelley episode because he's written many fantasy-type episodes like The Simpsons, Planet of the Caveman, which was our favorite episode from season 35. Brick Like Me, that's the Lego episode. But let's not forget Lisa Gets the Blues with David Silverman. We've reviewed other episodes from Mr. Kelley like Lisa the Drama Queen or Postcards from the Wedge. How about Moms I Like to Forget, Steve?
I remember that episode, I think.
I'm sure you do. And Lisa Gets the Blues with David Silverman.
Ah, yes.
Oh, and The Very Hungry Caterpillars from season 34.
That was a fun episode. That's kind of the first episode to explore the pandemic and kind of the effect of it.
Yeah. So with that fantasy element that Brian Kelley brings to the show, because, not just The Simpsons, you think of like old-timey Dungeons and Dragons type of, fantasy worlds. You think of like that one character from that Arnold Schwarzenegger played, right? Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
So obviously he wrote for Conan O'Brien because it's the same thing.
Right.
Wrote SNL, wrote some news radios, Futurama, and of course our favorite sitcom of all time, Joey.
Of course. That Dre De Matteo, hilarious.
I'm her only fan. Brian Kelley, good stuff, right, Steve?
Yeah, so, he's written 21 episodes, and this is the 10th that we've reviewed, so we're moving right along into the Kelley writing canon.
And it sounds like he still works on the show because he did have an episode last season, or season 35, as this records, so maybe we'll see him in this coming season 36.
Here's hoping.
All right. Steve?
Yes.
I'm going to surprise you with something.
Oh, boy. I'm excited.
I need you to read these next words after couch gag.
All right. Here we go. In the living room, a tray is placed inside a giant microwave. As the tray cooks, the Simpsons rise until they're fully cooked.
That's the only way to cook a Simpson.
Yep. In the microwave.
The scene in the film Gremlins, that microwave scene always creeped me out as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was always afraid to put things into the microwave to think that it would happen. I'm like, should I put my cats in there?
I mean, you never know. You only learn once, so.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, never get fooled again?
Yeah.
Is that how that saying goes? Okay.
And maybe third time's a charm. Not a political podcast.
That's a fun little quick one, right?
Yeah, nice and easy.
You ever cooked, I know you've said it on the podcast before, you're anti-microwave, but isn't that how you like your tea? You like to microwave it?
Yes. I hope we have a lot of British listeners because they'll love to hear that. And I like to put in my cream afterwards, too.
You can just put in your full English breakfast cold and then hit like 5 minutes and it's probably done, right?
Oh, yeah, it should be fine. Your sausage and your tomato and all the fun stuff. Yeah, just pop it in the microwave. It's good to go.
Beans, mushrooms, egg. It's like all cuts of the pig, too, right? That's pretty much a full English.
Yeah. All the things that you want to start out your day.
Have you ever had a full English breakfast before?
I have, and it's good, but it's like nap-inducing. One of my favorite breakfasts is biscuits and gravy, but you can't have biscuits and gravy on any day you want to accomplish anything because you're so full and tired afterwards. And the English breakfast is the same thing. Like, it's nice that they throw in a tomato, like a wink at you, like, hey, we're healthy. But, you're eating sausage and beans and eggs. You just want to fart and sleep.
Yeah, that's just fart-inducing coma right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Steve, let's not fart anymore on this podcast.
Let's not. Please.
Our episode begins, as it always does, at the Springfield Public Library, which has a sign outside that advertises its working Xerox machine, until an employee removes that sign. And inside, Marge, Bart, Lisa, Maggie, and Milhouse walk through the library to find bare, cobweb-covered shelves. And Lisa informs the librarian that she's working on a research paper and asks where are all the books. So the elderly librarian tells Lisa the books are for squares, that the library is now a multimedia learning center for children of all ages, except it's mostly just for bums. So we then see several transient folks sleeping at the tables, including Homer, and Lisa explores a few remaining titles left in the building, while Milhouse frets over his grades. But Marge offers a solution in this clip.
Everybody poops. The video, Yu-Gi-Oh! Price guides, there are hardly any books at all.
No books? But Krabappel wants a paper on Henry VIII, and I have to score at least a pumpkin sticker or better on it.
There. I can help you, kids.
Huh?
I know a little something about history. Gather round. Henry VIII had everything he could want, except a son to follow in his footsteps.
I'm Henry VIII, I am. Henry VIII, I am. I've been eating since 6 a.m. For dessert, I'll have dinner again. My name's synonymous with gluttony. I'll always eat a turkey or a ham.
Stop singing that song. We all know who you are.
I do want to take a chance to say that while they're in the library and it looks so sad, I do want to say that the library is a great resource, and you don't even have to go to the library. I received a Kindle for Christmas, and you can use the Libby app to download books and put them on your Kindle. And I've read over 30 books this year, mostly through the library. I haven't spent a dime, and it's been really easy.
Steve, most of those books were comic books, right?
I mean, some of them.
Did you read all the Hardy Boys mysteries?
I read the Hardy Boys. I read the Boxcar Children. I even dipped my toe into some Nancy Drew.
Steve, that's a sex crime. I don't think you should be doing that.
Oh, yeah. I won't dip my toe into her anymore.
Libraries are great because they also have movies.
Yeah.
And TV shows.
Some even have video games that you can rent.
What?
Yeah, you can, rent Switch games.
Oh, I thought, it would only be, PS2 games.
A 5.5 floppy disk of, Hubert.
You could get all the Leisure Suit Larry games.
That's literature.
And pixelated boobs. Don't forget about pixelated boobs.
I never do.
In that clip, Steve, we saw Marge.
Yeah. I really liked when when Marge's like, I could help, and all the kids were, stunned. It's just kind of funny.
It's also setting up the bit of this episode, which is, I think probably by this time, we're at season 15, and I feel like the 3 story narratives things are already becoming kind of not cliche is not the word, but expected. So with Marge, I can do this, this is usually it's Homer maybe telling the tales, or each of them telling the tales, but now this is Marge's time to shine, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
She could tell these stories.
That's right, and she knows her history, because as we saw there, we're in 16th century England, where Henry VIII, as portrayed by Homer, wipes his mouth with the Magna Carta as Sideshow Mel announces the arrival of Margarine of Aragon. Henry, Homer, wonders what she's doing out of bed since he just planted a seed in her womanly dirt. Margarine is aware that Henry desires a male heir, but isn't sure that she should be discussing her womb in front of the entire court. The camera zooms out to show everyone sitting around laughing at them. The royal physician, Dr. Nick Riviera, shares his learned opinion that Marge's womb is filled with sea serpents, and Marge rolls her eyes at this.
But that was the fashion of the time, Steve.
Indeed.
So that evening, Homer tosses and turns in bed, saying to himself repeatedly, must sire a dude, must sire a dude. And then a dream bubble appears, and inside Bart says, Father, dearest, I'm the son you crave. I shouldn't have said it like that. So he adds that he's smart, athletic, and ever so masculine. He then lets out a mighty burp, asking if a girl could belch like that. And Homer wants the son of his dreams, while Marge wonders if she married the right royal.
Why can't I have you?
Oh, too much jerk in your merkin?
Well, you little... Good. Get out of my dream. Send it to my wife.
I could have married the King of France. He wasn't so preoccupied with procreation. Ting-a-ling-a-ling. Know what I mean?
Oh, look at me. I eat and eat and eat, and I never get any thinner.
Well, there's more of you to worship, O sire.
Oh, what dare to flatter a king.
Anne Boleyn, loyal subject, big fan. Modern Wench magazine dubbed me Anne of the Childbearing Hips.
Yes, wide hips indeed. My son could cartwheel out.
Yoink!
Where are you taking me?
Marriage counseling.
Oh.
Marge is a little homophobic in that.
This was the 1600s, after all.
I guess so, yeah. They weren't so PC back then. But Anne Boleyn shows off a business card which reads, Anne Boleyn, a son'll come out, S-O-N, tomorrow. One reference to a musical Annie.
And her name's Annie.
Hey, it is. I didn't even pick up on that. Smart. So Homer checks out the Yorker magazine, because there's no New York yet, when Marge rips the issue from his hand so that they can discuss their marriage problems with Dr. Hibbert. Homer states that he wants to marry Anne Boleyn, but he can't chop his wife's head off because her dad is the Queen of Spain. Hibbert tells Homer that marriage is a lot of hard work, so Homer snaps his fingers, sending armed soldiers to place axes around Hibbert's neck. So the good doctor, not that one, tells Homer to trade in that lemon and get busy.
Homer then pays a visit to Sir Thomas More, the Lord Chancellor, as of course portrayed by Ned Flanders. He informs Homer that divorce is not allowed in the Catholic Church, but it's the only church they got, so what can you do? So Homer says that he'll start his own church, which stuns Sir Thomas More. So Homer goes on to say that his church will make divorce so easy, more than half of marriages end in it.
You know, Craig, that's kind of a misnomer, the whole idea of like half of marriages ending with divorce, because most of them end in death, because they don't account for people dying, which is how most weddings usually, or marriages usually stop.
Ooh, most weddings.
I mean, some weddings too, I suppose.
It's kind of an interesting clause if you think about it. You know, when you say your vows and it's till death do us part. In the Christian mythos, when you die, you get to go to heaven. And that means you don't have to be with your spouse as an angel.
Uh-huh.
You get to bang all the angels.
Well, if you ask me, being in heaven is being married to my wife.
Is she sitting in the room with you right now, Steve?
Yes, she is.
Okay. I would bang all the angels from Mike Trout to the other guys who are on the Angels.
Sure. The rest.
I would have said Ohtani, but, he doesn't play for them anymore.
Of course, I saw that big trade deal.
That was like a year ago. But we can pretend that we recorded this in 2023.
Sure, why not?
Man, that 2024 presidential election is coming up on us, Steve. Who do you think's going to be running for the Republican Party? Because it surely wouldn't be the former president that we fired.
No, of course not. It's probably going to be Mitt Romney or something, but whoever it is, I'm sure young Joe Biden will take care of it.
Yeah, hopefully the Republican Party will come back to be a little bit more civilized and deal with bipartisan issues on a professional level with the other Democrats. That's all we need.
They'll stop with their weird racist claims about nonsense and just be a logical, important thing that has policies and makes the world better by simply existing.
Hopefully, like, whoever future Republican candidate, which we'll say Mitt Romney, doesn't, have a vice president that, like, makes up stories about people from another country that live in, Springfield.
Yes.
Like Springfield, one of these Springfields, and say they eat people's pets.
Yeah.
That would be weird. That wouldn't happen, right? Not in our timeline.
No, that'd be really weird. And then it'd be even more weird to go on a talk show and defend the candidate's racist girlfriend, who isn't his wife, by saying something more racist. Like, I don't know how that would happen, so I don't see that happening.
Again, we're just making stupid jokes because we're recording this in 2023.
That's right.
All right.
Ned reminds Homer that he works for the Pope, and he feels that a celibate weirdo knows a whole lot more about marriage than Homer does. So, after some pondering, Homer tells Ned that because he's stuck to his principles, he's gonna canonize him. And then we see that he meant that in more of a literal sense, as Ned is then shot out of a cannon, shouting that he can see his house from there before plummeting to his death.
Is that canon? That cannons were already invented by that time?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that.
A cannon may have appeared as early as a 12th century China, so
okay.
definitely in China. But 14th century Middle East, it spread to Europe around 1326. This is all off the top of my head, not Wikipedia.
Of course.
So yeah, the canon was canon by then.
We all know that Henry VIII was released in 1963 by Herman's Hermits, so the canon was well in usage by then.
So what's funny is in Europe, a depiction of a canon was referenced in the year 1326. And you know what's funny about the canon being referenced in the year 1326? It's also how many kids Nick Cannon has, 1,326.
America may have talent, but he's got sperm. A lot of it.
Well, in front of Homer's throne, Marge tells Lisa that sometimes a mommy and daddy decide to live apart. So she adds that it's not Lisa's fault. It's just that she came out the wrong sex and ruined everything. Homer adds, grow a penis or get lost. After attempting to strain a penis out, which is a really funny scene because she's like, it's almost like, you're trying to like poop or something.
Right.
Lisa gives up and wondering why Homer's heir can't be female. Or why couldn't they just elect their leaders? Homer ponders the possibility of canonizing a child, which causes Lisa to just leave.
As members of the kingdom divide things in half, including cutting King Henry's crown in two, Homer wonders why Marge gets half of everything when he was the one who invented divorce. And the blue-haired lawyer representing Marge tells Homer that he should have invented the prenup before demanding half of the kingdom. So Homer rips a map into giving Marge one of the pieces. And she's kind of disappointed to learn that she got Ireland.
I wouldn't mind Ireland.
I'd take Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, the temperature and climate is very much reminiscent of the Pacific Northwest, so I would enjoy it.
I love a cable knit sweater and some okay whiskey.
And, you and I, we would be like those banshees of Hiroshima.
Yes.
I would probably be the Colin Farrell, and you'd be the, what's that actor's name?
Brendan Gleeson, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you would just be like, I don't like you. And then you chop your finger off in front of me.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah. Can you do that now? Can I see it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Ow!
All right.
Well, I just did the pinky.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
Homer goes on to marry his new trophy queen, Anne Boleyn, as ordained by Reverend Lovejoy in the name of Henry the Hank and the Holy Harry. Is that supposed to be Hank Azaria and Harry Shearer?
I think maybe.
The newlywed couples kiss and begin to consummate their marriage on the floor of the church. Kearney and Nelson cover them with a sign that says, Prince under construction, just as Anne reaches orgasm, shouting, "Oh, Henry!" Steve, would you like an "Oh, Henry"?
Oh, sure.
What's in the "Oh, Henry"?
It is peanuts, caramel, and fudge covered in chocolate.
Actually, does sound pretty good. I don't know. Have I had one?
I haven't seen one in a while. They seem a little bit kind of like a bastard version of a Snickers bar in a way.
But the fudge,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like replacing the nougat with fudge, which seems like a better move, but I feel like they don't get the respect they deserve.
No, I'm a big fudge fan, Steve. In fact, we're recording this at the carnival right now, so I can't find the fudge stand, Steve. I really want some. Do you know where it's at?
Let's see. Oh, there's the milk stand. There's the other milk stand. Over there's the lemonade stand. I think it's right around the corner.
So around the corners where the fudge is made?
Exactly. You just got to go up that Hershey Highway.
Right.
So 9 months later, Anne apologizes to Henry for bearing a daughter. And Homer laughs, saying that he'll love his daughter as much as he loves her. We then see that an executioner is about to chop Anne's head off. And so Wiggum, who is the executioner, tells Anne that her head will stay alive for 5 seconds afterwards, so he left a magazine in the basket. So he then chops off her head, as she sees in her horoscope that today will bring welcome changes in your life. And then from a great trust reading, she goes, wrong.
I remember that, as a kid, those, old wives' tales, or I don't know if this is an old wives' tale, but when you're decapitated, you're alive for 5 seconds and you see your body.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know that as science fact because we know the brain is still alive for that amount of time? If we chop their head off, hey, okay, we're going to chop your head off and just let us know if it's true you can still see that you're still alive. Just go ditto or something like that. Or yep.
Yeah, just yes, I can.
Could you, though?
I don't know.
Do you have the air to speak?
I feel like there's going to be some reserve air in your head. So I think it's possible, but I don't know.
Could there be a way where you take the entire muscle and skeletal structure of a human, keep their head intact, but all the organs, and then put them in a tube, and they can still be alive?
Kind of like the head jars from Futurama.
Yeah, but this, you still have to have your lungs, your heart, your anus, your urethra, gallbladder, all that stuff is still there. It's just all mushed into a ball, but in liquid goo.
Yeah, I think that would work just fine. Just wrap it in duct tape.
All right, well, maybe I have a science experiment for us later.
All right.
So a puppet show featuring Itchy and Scratchy shows the cat and mouse accusing each other of conducting a Catholic mass and not signing the Act of Secession. They then beat each other with clubs. So Homer watches, wishing he had a son to share the show with. So he looks over and sees a lovely lass trying to get his attention. And he asks if she'd like to be queen for a day. And Wiggum, the executioner, laughs, since Homer is, the king. And as they are about to get married, Homer finds issue with the potential new bride. So he decides to have her beheaded. And this begins a trend.
Do you, Jane Seymour, take this king to be your lawfully wedded husband till your first little spat?
How I double do! Henry is the ginchiest! The Lord is my shed!
I told you I was a dude.
You didn't dump me, I dumped you!
Ugh, why on earth did I marry you?
My track record. I've had 10 sons. Now take a ride on the Kingmaker. Swing and a miss. Oh, come on. I'm 95. You could use a butter knife, for God's sake. Well, don't just stand there. Bury me.
Sire, I know what you usually do to the bearer of bad news, but, we're running out of pikes to stick your wife's heads onto.
Well, you running out of pikes?
Oh, man, I hope I'm not a fish market. You don't want to run out of pikes.
They're a tasty fish.
Especially that famous one in Seattle. It's even named after a pike.
That's right. Birthplace of Starbucks.
And the death of Seattle's best.
It really is, because Starbucks bought Seattle's best, and now they're kind of a fledgling company. So yeah, you're completely right.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, King Homer goes to the pike storage and learns that Mo was correct, that they're out of pikes. He admits his mistake, and the beheaded head of Mo says that means a lot.
So later, an older and sickly Homer lay in bed, telling Margarine that his whole life was searching for that one woman whose execution would bring him happiness. He then realizes that he was just beheading himself for divorcing her. Marge adds locking her in the dungeon to his list of regrets, and Homer asks Marge to take him back, an old head-chopping fool. And Marge says, of course, Your Majesty, and offers to fluff his pillows. And then she yells, those aren't pillows. She really suffocates him with the pillow, shouting, see you in hell, fat man. Is this how that Henry VIII story goes? I don't know my Anglo-Saxon history, Steve.
I don't either. My wife studied it, and she could tell you all about the several lives of Henry VIII. But I don't think the last one killed him. I think he died of being fat and, like, gout.
But then after him, it was Queen
Anne of Green Gables.
Queen Anne Margaret?
Yes.
Was it Queen Elizabeth II?
I think it was a Queen Elizabeth, yeah.
I'm Henry VIII, I am. Well, he's a cool guy. That was our first segment, Steve.
Yeah. Very educational. We got to learn about Jane Seymour, who, of course, went on to play Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Don't forget she was a Bond girl.
That's right. So that was fun.
And Jane Seymour just looks great to this day.
She does. Like, every time I see her in an award show, I'm like, wow, good for you, Jane.
Yeah. She's been around all that time.
Yeah. Centuries of greatness.
All right.
So we go back to the library, and modern-day Marge tells the kids that Henry's daughter, Elizabeth, as we just mentioned, became queen. This made British power greater than ever, and British actresses always had a role to play once they reached a certain age.
Well, Milhouse loves Marge's story and is excited to receive a check plus from the teacher. As he walks away, Nelson trips him, causing him to lose his notebook. Nelson picks it up, commenting that the library really is a great resource. And to think he just came here to trip nerds for nothing.
I really like Milhouse's concern for his grades for a check plus, because it doesn't matter.
But like check plus, that was the best.
Oh yeah, I mean, it seems like a great deal, but won't get you anywhere in your life.
A check was like you did the work, which is like C, you average, like you're C. Like this is before, because remember elementary school, just now having flashbacks, that like, was it maybe up until third grade, you didn't have letter grades, and it was like fourth grade, it's like that's when you start getting letter grades.
Yeah, I think so.
So now I'm trying to think, was it just like plus check minus? Like that's like, if you had a minus, that was an F, right?
Right. I think like there was like minus, check plus, maybe something like that.
Yeah. But a check plus, that's unheard of, right? Milhouse is just making this up.
That's going above and beyond. That's like,
that's Lisa territory.
Right, exactly.
Which Milhouse wants to be in Lisa territory, so it's understandable.
Yes, give her a check plus. Speaking of Lisa, she scans a few books left on the shelf, but can't seem to find anything on the report that she wants to write about Sacagawea. It seems like she can only find books about Cubs' third baseman, Ron Santo. And Marge tells her not to worry because in elementary school, the girls learned all about Sacagawea while the boys were taught math. Lisa agrees to listen to Marge's story, putting the Ron Santo biography, Life at Third Base, back on the shelf, which is quickly snatched by a houseless person who intends on using it as toilet paper. While he wipes his ass, Marge begins her next tale of history.
I think Steve's autobiography would be Life's at the Plate.
I say, Life at Third Base is clearly not DJ Khaled's biography.
No.
Were you making a sex joke or a fat joke, I wonder?
I was making a sex joke.
Okay, good.
Never get, like, a girl.
Okay, yeah.
I know you're married. It's just,
right.
We're guys. We razz on each other.
No, I got it. I just wasn't sure. Because for a moment, I thought that you were, like, saying how much sex I had because I got home and so I was at the plate. But you're saying that I never left. And that makes a lot more sense now. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But you're at the plate. You're at bat. If I said life at home.
Right.
But that just means, like, you're a homebody, I think.
Which is also apt.
Yeah. And also life at the plate, the food one does make sense, too. But that could work for me, too.
Yeah.
Or how about life at short? Like shortstop? I don't know. That doesn't make... Life on the bench?
There
That's
you
even
go.
Better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Steve couldn't get Ron Santo for this podcast. Sorry, listeners. Let's go to the next tale like Steve said we were going to. So, as Marge informs the kids, in 1804, President Jefferson sent Lewis and Clark, as portrayed by Lenny and Carl, and some embedded journalists, to find the Northwest Passage. So they paddled up the Mississippi from St. Louis, which has the prototype arch made of wood right now. And Marge goes on to discuss the hardships Lewis and Clark experienced in the winter, such as both of them getting their tongues stuck to a flagpole, much like the movie A Christmas Story.
That's right.
So during springtime, Lewis and Clark sought help from the indigenous people.
Long have we awaited the coming of the white man. And Carl.
Thanks, and welcome to the United States of America.
Have a flag. And while you're at it, cover your nakedness and worship our Lord.
Yeah, I'll get right on it. Now, in order to aid your journey across the land, I offer you the guidance of my daughter, Sacagawea. In our language, her name means little know-it-all who won't shut her maze hole.
I will be happy to help the Americans. Of course, I will be sad to leave my husband, the French fur trader Charbonneau.
I will come with you. Because by myself, the darkness, she scares me.
I don't know why I ever sold you to him.
It's okay that Homer's portraying an indigenous person because there is no Native American indigenous person really represented in The Simpsons.
That oversight makes it look okay.
They do have the casino owners and from that one episode, so, maybe they could have used them.
Yeah. I feel like it's, in this instance, in the world of these triptych kind of storytelling ones, I feel like The Simpsons can kind of fit in wherever they need to. So it works for me.
I remember when this episode came out, the internet was really pissed off because of the race casting of Lewis and Clark, that they made Carl play Clark, because it's like, we didn't want representation back then, and surely fans of the internet don't want it now.
Right. It's like if they made a new Star Wars and put Carl in it, they'd just be really mad.
If a person of color was in a Star Wars, I don't know what the internet would do.
Sure, they'd be nice about it and not, send a person to nearly go to therapy because of it, people being awful.
Well, Steve, I got some trivia for you here. Homer says that Sacagawea's name means little know-it-all who won't shut her maze hole, but in reality, her birth tribe insists that her name means she who carries a burden. But another spelling of the name comes from the Hidatsa, her adopted tribe, means a bird woman. This was mentioned in the Lewis and Clark journals. Now, before we continue, Steve, we have talked a lot about, not on this podcast, but as kids of the Pacific Northwest, we are taught ad nauseum about Lewis and Clark from grades kindergarten to 12th.
Yes, it's true.
It's like there was always all right, these 3 months we're going to talk about Lewis and Clark, and then in 1 month we'll talk about world history.
Yeah, that's it. Revolutionary War, a bunch of time on Lewis and Clark, and then a little bit of world history if we find the time.
It was like Revolutionary War, Civil War, and then Lewis and Clark for 2 months, and then a little bit of World War I, World War II mostly, and then we stopped at the Vietnam War.
That's when history ended.
Yeah, that's because all of our teachers fought in Nam.
That's right.
I've always wondered. I'm sure. Well, I know there's a Ken Burns documentary about Lewis and Clark.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just surprised big Hollywood hasn't made a mini series or a movie about Lewis and Clark, making this epic sprawling adventure, because it's like Lord of the Rings. They're just walking.
Right, exactly. And I think there's a fair amount of drama between the two of them too that would make for good filmmaking. Is I believe Lewis was jealous of Clark or vice versa for some reason, and so they didn't get along.
Yeah, and I believe I got a 50-50 shot on this trivia knowledge. I think it was Meriwether Lewis who ended up committing suicide, or it was Clark. It was one of those after the voyage.
Yeah, and then I think it was Clark because Lewis found a new partner in Dean Martin, and they became a comedy troupe.
But I thought Clark ended up marrying this cub reporter from Metropolis named Lois.
Yes. And then, he went on to a fine journalistic career and nothing else.
Because his name's Clark. He can't be any other super creature power.
Right.
Man. Okay.
So, as Lewis and Clark's crew foraged for food and supplies, Sacagawea calmly walks by and tells them that the berries Otto found are poison, the leaves that Kearney are using to build a shelter are poison oak, and Squeaky Voice Teen's belt is a snake, which also happens to be poisonous. An angry Otto tells Lisa that her attitude is poisonous before popping some berries in his mouth, which causes him to fall in his death. His last words are, "The people will always remember the expedition of Lewis and Clark and Tweedleburger."
The forgotten Tweedleburger.
The Pete Best of the expeditions.
The Franklin of the Annoyed Grunt Boys.
Yes. Franklin. I love Franklin.
R.I.P. Franklin.
You'll be missed.
Lisa continues to offer helpful advice, such as when confronted with a mountain lion, try to make herself as big as possible. So she adds that they should also bury their dead friends, as vultures pick at Otto. Now Lenny is still in mourning and suggests they get a drink at the local bar, Moe's. Moe is excited to get some customers since people doubted the viability of opening a bar in Kansas. Just then, a tornado blows the tavern away, and Moe rebuilds, saying nothing can crush the frontier spirit until his bar is crushed by both his spirits and his body.
So Lenny discovers a body of water and believes it to be the Pacific Ocean. But as Lisa points out, it's actually just a mud puddle. And Lenny remarks that some people find solutions rather than point out problems. And Lisa asks how they became explorers at all, and explains that they got the job because he owned a compass, but unfortunately that compass's needle was just painted on.
In 1806, President Jefferson, played by Quimby, which is kind of funny because Quimby likes to sleep around a lot, and so did Jefferson. He shares with the press that it's been 2 years since Lewis and Clark's expedition began, and the brave explorers should be leaving the Louisiana Territory and entering Oregon country. Outside the White House window, Lewis and Clark walk by, and 1 year later, the expedition continues, and the travelers find themselves surrounded by indigenous people. Lewis, Clark, and their people cock their rifles, and the native people cock their bows. Kind of funny sound joke, which have the same sound effect. Before the fighting starts, Lisa notices a familiar face, and later in this clip, the intrepid explorers frustrate their guide.
Wait, that's my brother! Don't kill them! They're my friends!
Oh, come on. Can't we at least have one pity scalp?
Ah, my brother-in-law. I haven't seen you since I killed all your buffalo. Water under the bridge, eh? Eh?
Don't forget the eyebrows.
Wow, the Columbia River. Now we just ride this baby down to the Pacific and get us some sweet mermaid sex.
For the last time, those are salmon.
How do you like that? Sacagawea has an opinion.
Big surprise. You know, you could be a little more grateful to us for civilizing you.
I am the only reason you guys made it this far alive. From now on, you're on your own. Stupid thing with the compass is painted on.
Does it look like they filmed here in the Pacific Northwest? That didn't really look like the Columbia River to me.
Probably filmed in Vancouver, Canada, and just claimed it as Portland.
And that's what I thought too. Again, Hollywood Productions shooting in Canada, portraying Oregon or Washington.
Just to save a few bucks.
Makes me sick.
Sick, I tell ya. So as Lisa angrily walks away, Lenny is sure that she'll be back, especially since she forgot her husband. He then holds up a skull of Millhouse. And so Lisa calls Lewis and Clark ingrates, but finds comfort in her only friend, the woolly rock that she happens to be sitting on. But that woolly rock turns out to be a fierce mountain lion.
As the big cat closes in on Lisa, Lenny and Carl run up with their jackets open, shouting, we're big, which you mountain goats find terrifying. So the mountain meows in fear before running away. And it's nice that the meow is just like a little kitten's meow.
Yeah.
It's like the same audio clip of a cat you hear all the time.
It's like the Wilhelm scream of cats.
Yeah. Lisa is touched and then realizes that they have reached their destination.
They remembered what I taught them.
Of course we did. We'll never forget you, Pocahontas.
Sacagawea.
Gesundheit.
Look! The Pacific Ocean!
We made it! We discovered the magnificent Pacific Northwest. I say we give this lovely land a name worthy of its beauty. Eugene, Oregon. And we owe it all to you. You're gonna get the greatest honor this country can bestow.
And today, Lewis's promise has been fulfilled.
What is that, a quarter?
A Chuck E. Cheese token? No, it's a Sacagawea dollar. You can trade it in at the bank for a real dollar. Huh?
Sacagawea coin is legal tender, of course, but
Yeah.
Marge is like, you could trade it for a real dollar.
In Portland, if you used our mass transit, especially our train, and you put in cash, you'd get Sacagawea dollars as change. So, like, if you were spending, like, at the time, probably like $1.50 for a ticket, and you put in a $20 bill, you'd get 18 Sacagawea dollars and 2 quarters. So I'll often have people paying for things in Sacagawea dollars, and they're like, oh, it's such an inconvenience, even though, like, most of the rest of the Western world uses a coin for their lowest denomination dollar.
Right.
Canada has the loonie and the toonie, and England has the equivalent of that. I think the Sacagawea dollar's fine.
I guess it's just, in your pocket, it's probably annoying, right? You carry around...
Yeah.
Easier to carry around $21 bills than 20 coins.
Yeah, and especially for the stripping community, because this quarter's hurt in the thong.
It really does. The joke of Lenny saying, this land is so beautiful, let's name it Eugene, an ugly name. They could have done a Springfield, Oregon joke, but...
Yeah.
Like, they could have had a joke where it was, we'll name this city Springfield, and over there is where the Simpsons will live.
Right. It's a missed opportunity for sure.
In a way, just like confirming that the Simpsons are in Springfield, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it would make it funny because no one knows what's Springfield, because it's Springfield, USA. It's any Springfield, because every state has a Springfield, right? Is that true? Every state has a Springfield?
I don't think it's actually true, but most of them do. I think probably more do than don't.
I'm going to say Hawaii and Alaska don't have a Springfield.
Yeah, I think those are the two holdouts.
Is there a Springfield, Washington? No, there isn't. There's a neighborhood in Olympia called Springfield.
Okay, that's something. Springfield, yeah.
Steve, I think you and I should make our own town in Washington State called Springfield.
I like it.
How come no one makes towns now? Like what's the newest town in America?
I know.
I'm just trying to think, can you just build a town?
I don't see why not. I mean, we played enough Tap Out. We know how it goes.
Yeah. All right. Listeners, donate to our GoFundMe. We're going to start a new town. So we'll need a power plant and a city hall and a library and a police station, a fire station, a hospital. I'm trying to remember my SimCity playing days.
Yeah.
We need some roads, a school, hopefully not a Godzilla that comes and destroys it.
Right. I don't think we need hurricanes.
No. So what we're asking for is we're going to try to raise, I don't know, it's probably costs about a couple $1 billion to build a city.
Probably, yeah. That sounds good.
So our two listeners, if you could each just give us $1 billion, we can make it.
Yeah, we can get this done by the end of the week if you donate now.
Donate now.
We'll finally have time for that Patreon.
Yes. Oh, and since you guys are contributing the top tier of our city, you guys will get your own studio apartment.
Oh, nice. Yes.
With the 20% discount, I mean.
Yeah, of course. I mean, nothing's free, but you can also apply for a job at the train station to be a conductor if you want.
Utilities not included. You still have to pay full utilities.
Of course.
But our hotels will have free HBO.
Yes, no Max, but we will have HBO from 2000 to 2007.
Which means you get all of the real sex.
Oh, yeah. And even some taxi cab concessions.
I think we need to continue to our next segment eventually.
All right, fine. So, in the library, Marge asks Bart what historical figure he'd like to learn about. And he's not sure. Maybe the boogeyman? And Marge is sure that she can make learning fun. Because history's like an amusement park. Except for rides, you have dates to memorize. And Bart retorts that everybody who ever lived is boring. And Marge asks Bart if there's anything boring about a badass rocker who lived fast and died young. So Bart hears this, and he's sure there's a catch, but he still wants to hear.
And Marge begins her final tale of history about a young prodigy who wowed audiences across 18th century Europe. So we then go to Austria, where Homer introduces the star of the show, his son, Mozart.
He makes Buck turn back. Haydn go into Haydn, and, well, those are the only ones there have been so far.
Hello, Vienna! Are there any aficionados in the house?
Sonata A, K331, third movement.
I can't hear you!
Sonata A, K331, third movement.
I know that, spoiler alert, Beethoven is going to come in later, but I think the joke about I can't hear you, I think you could have done something with Beethoven because he was hearing impaired towards the end of his life. But yeah, this is the time of Mozart and his talented prowess of musicians. And this is, of course, going to reference the movie Amadeus. Have you ever seen the movie Amadeus?
Craig has not seen.
Yeah. For some reason, it angered my dad a lot, and I don't know why.
Like, it takes a lot of liberties.
Yeah.
And all I know from Amadeus is fuck Murray Abraham is the man who killed Mozart.
Okay, yeah, and Gary Oldman is in there, too.
Yeah.
I think.
My reference, of course, was from the hit Arnold Schwarzenegger film, his follow-up to Terminator 2.
Ah, yes.
Last Action Hero.
I think it's the second time in as many weeks that we've referenced Last Action Hero, so...
Well, I brought it up last week, the same reference, because of this episode.
Of course.
Didn't I?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I'll believe you.
So, Bart continues to wow the crowd with his musical prowess, playing the organ with his feet. Women throw pantaloons on the stage, and her bopple flashes her bosoms to Bart. He continues to showboat, playing with his butt, and then with 2 violins, and then picking up the grand piano and playing it with his teeth, a la Jimi Hendrix.
So after the show, Homer compliments his son, but wishes he would have pushed the merchandise, such as Bat Out of Salzburg blouse. Lisa meekly asks Homer if she can be the headliner, saying that she always shows up on time and closes the piano lid ever so softly. And Homer tells little Salieri to play with the 3 other untalented members of the family, Tito, Brandy, and Jermaine. That's a Jackson 5 joke, Steve.
Which I think is kind of sad, because I think, as of this recording, I think Tito Jackson passed away today.
Steve, we're in the year 2023. How is that possible?
Oh, that's right, yeah. A psychic told me that 1 year from today, one of the Jackson 5 will pass away. So Marge tells Sally that no one practices harder than she does, but Mozart keeps them in lead-based face powder, and then she powders her nose and nearly passes out.
Lisa later practices her scales when Bart puts a plague rat down her shirt. Lisa thinks that Bart should be writing music, but it turns out that he's composing with his feet, his symphony in G, My Sister Sucks. And Lisa prays to God, asking why it gave such transcendent talent to such an undeserving fool. Bart, pretending to be God, says, because you are ugly.
At the Austrian Music Awards, a snuff-free event, Rainier Wolfcastle is the presenter. He opens with a joke, asking, what is it about music that enchants us? And then answers, the notes. While he speaks, Bart puts a sign on an audience member that says, I am a dumb cough. And so Wolfcastle then offers a little ad for Heinrich Bratwurst, asking, Papa, can we have a Heinrich Bratwurst? And then he presents the award for Outstanding Composer, aged 10 and under. Lisa crosses her fingers, hoping to win, but sadly, Mozart takes the prize.
Well, Lisa sees with jealousy as Bart accepts the award. He thanks the crowd, saying that he wants to see them all next week at his concert in Krakow. He then pulls down his knickers, revealing his little butt. The crowd laughs, and Lisa is confused and angry.
Oh. So at the Vienna Opera House Mozart show, The Musical Fruit is about to open, and both flops and dandies are there for the show that is sold out, which is mincing room only. And Lisa sarcastically states that she hopes the show is enjoyed, and Homer responds that those people, they're like sheep. As the Emperor goes, so do they. And Lisa looks at the Emperor, played by Burns, and gets a devious idea.
So she goes to the balcony pretending to be a concession seller, offering a variety of wines, such as claret, port, and Riesling. She whispers to Burns that the Empress drinks free, and then pours poison into the glass she hands him. So as Burns drinks the wine quickly, Lisa wishes him a naughty night before letting out a sinister laugh. The show is about to get underway, which features a devil stirring a cauldron and Cy Chamel singing passionately.
Beans, oh beans, delicious in your mouth.
But watch out when beans come out down south. Tooting, some call it hooting. It's air polluting. The gas come shooting right from your butt.
Ooh, this makes me want to fop till I drop. Yes, sir. Ooh. The Emperor finds it boring.
Then so do we.
People bored with opera? That's impossible. To failure, dear brother. Oops.
I did like their songs. It's very blue-collar humor, Steve.
It is, but, at the time...
We would never make dick and fart jokes on this podcast.
No, we're a higher class than that.
Right.
Like, just last week, we talked about opera. And the week before that, we talked about crossword puzzles.
It is kind of funny how, last week's episode had an opera, and then here we are now back in, another concert hall. Well, Lisa toasts her brother's failure and then drinks the wine that she poisoned. She realizes what she had done, and then passes out.
Yep, the show was a failure, and Snuffbox Magazine reports Pops dropped to Mozart's flop, and Bart lies on the cobblestone streets of Vienna, drunk and depressed. He grows ill, and while suffering in his sickbed, he's visited by his sister, who's brought the finest doctor in all of Austria, Dr. Nick.
Well, after he wishes him a Guten Tag, Dr. Nick notices that Bart has too much blood, so he covers his face in leeches, telling him to eat the boy. Dr. Nick tells Bart that in the morning they'll be good as new, or dead. So the important thing is they'll know. And Lisa begins to regret her actions as Homer and Marge begin to fear that they'll lose their son.
Mozart, you can't die. I don't want to live in a world without the income you produce.
I'll never forget when you were a little baby, and I sang you the lullabies you wrote.
Where's my sister? Where's darling Salieri? I never wanted you to die. I just wanted to destroy your talent and your joy. Dear sister, I have a confession. In the eyes of history, I always thought your music would be judged the best. Really? But now that I'm dying young, I'll be cool forever. Eat my pantaloons.
Mozart is dead! Get your genuine death mask, fresh off the corpse. Be the first on your block to give me money.
Marge's line about how he wrote all the lullabies that she'd sang to him because, of course, Mozart wrote Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which went on to great fame as the ABC song.
And what's great about that, Steve, is it's royalty-free, so we don't have to pay his estate 1 penny. We can play it all we want on this podcast.
Yeah, let's see you tear that down, Spotify.
And YouTube. It's mostly YouTube that's been to us. Hi, everyone listening to us on YouTube. Sorry, we don't have faces yet.
Someday.
Once we get that Patreon, which, of course, we have a concept of a plan for that Patreon.
Yes, we do have a concept of a plan.
Well, Lisa writes a requiem for Mozart, eager to show it off to the Emperor. And she believes that with her brother dead, she is now the greatest composer alive. And it turns out that Lisa will have to wait, as Burns is busy with another musical prodigy. It's Nelson, portraying Beethoven. No, not that lovable dog that Charles Grodin can't handle, but the musician, Beethoven, Steve. The Emperor is impressed, declaring all other music obsolete, as Nelson lets out some ha-has to the tune of Beethoven's Fifth. Ha-ha-ha-ha. Lisa's eyes twitch, and she tosses her new music. So she hails an asylum carriage and hops in, laughing crazily. So let's take one last listen to Marge, and finally some good music.
That's the life of Mozart. Thank God he died young. I've got to get dinner on the stove.
Mom, that sounds a lot like the movie Amadeus, which was historically inaccurate. Mozart worked hard on his music. Salieri was a respected composer.
All I know is the guy who played Mozart was also in Animal House. Now there's a movie with good music. Animal House, house, house. Nobody ever went to class. Then we saw Donald Sutherland's ass. Animal House, house, house. Animal House, house, house. Then they did the end like American Graffiti, where you found out what happened to everyone.
That is a good song.
I don't remember it from the movie. It might have been the extended director's cut.
Yeah, I think so. But as Homer sings, we do learn what happened to our heroes, all of the style of Animal House, such as
Henry VIII still holds the world turkey leg eating record.
Sacagawea went on to great riches, posing for butterboxes, but not anymore.
Mozart's burial site is now the most popular gas station in Vienna.
And that night, Homer watched Animal House yet again, and he went to work the next day in a toga.
Steve, I think we should watch Animal House one of these days.
This is a big one. Steve hasn't seen.
You really have never seen Animal House?
Nope. I don't know why.
All right, we definitely have to do a Patreon because they mentioned Animal House in the Simpsons episode, and that's grounds of watching Animal House.
And
which I'm sure there's many connections from Animal House.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Donald Sutherland was in that episode with the tongue.
Wow, Steve, we got through all 3 segments. Are you proud of yourself now?
I'm pretty proud of myself, but I think I need to take a little break and think about what I just saw.
Me too.
All right, we'll be right back. Alrighty, Craig, we're back. Let's finish up our discussion of Margical History Tour. We'll talk about the things we liked about the episode, the things we thought we could do better, maybe a most valuable jokester, and what we thought of the episode, and what we're watching next week. But before we do that, we like to give each other some gifts from this episode in the spirit of kindness, much like Sacagawea gifted Lewis and Clark with the kindness of knowledge. And so for Craig, I got you 2 things. 1, Everybody Poops, the video, for all your viewing and educational needs, as well as the country of Ireland.
Very thoughtful, and I guess the poop thing was going to be my gift, but I won't give you the poop, Steve.
Thank you.
I was going to do a live interpretation of the book.
Oh, boy.
In front of you right now, yeah. But I got nothing in the chamber, so I can't do it.
So sorry to hear that.
And especially from an American say they have nothing in the chamber. Gun joke, Steve, gun joke. I'm going to give you 3 gifts.
Yes.
Because there's 3 segments, Steve.
Very kind.
So, the first gift, of course, would be from the King Henry times. I'm going to give you something that King Henry VIII never got.
What's that?
A son.
Oh, I wanted a turkey leg.
You do with your son what you want.
All right.
If you want to eat him as a turkey leg, you can. And then for your second gift, something from the Lewis and Clark days. And that is, of course, a Sacagawea coin.
Nice.
From the Mozart days, Steve. You know, healthcare is kind of expensive in this time in America. And since I just gave you a son, that coin that I gave you is not really going to pay for healthcare. So I figured if your son is sick, all you got to do is take out all the poison that the sickness from your son's illnesses if they occur. And that is a lifetime supply of leeches.
Oh, very nice.
So there's your 3 gifts.
Very kind of you, Craig. What made you laugh in this episode?
Are you not going to tell the audience what you named your son?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you have to discuss that with your wife?
We're going to talk about it, but I think it's going to be Craig Jr. in honor of you.
Thank you. I would have also preferred Chirpy Boy, or that's it. Oh, what did I like? Okay, I guess in honor of the 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the Yorker joke when Homer's reading the Yorker instead of the New Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Yorker. It was a very clever, punny joke. And then from the good old Sacagawea segment, I gotta go with even though I talked about how it should have been maybe a rewrite, but I actually do like the line of saying, "Oh, this land is so beautiful, let's name it Eugene, Oregon," and then it rains.
Yeah,
that's Oregon for you. And finally, in the Mozart segment, I do like how, again, gender swap Salieri being Lisa. I thought that was a little fun joke because, Sally, it's a feminine name.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the concept of Bart still being Bart, but also being, he's Mozart, but also being just the the hellish devil Bart child that he is.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like those two dandies in the audience.
Yeah, I feel like foppish dandies always make me laugh. Like, it's always just a funny gag.
So do I make those two my MVJs? They get the MVJ, Steve. Congratulations.
Very nice.
I'm clapping for the dandies.
Yeah, I really liked the Yorker joke. I thought that was really funny. Lisa's line of trying to grow a penis. Just that image of her, like, trying to push one out is really funny. I also like in the Lewis and Clark segment, when she's first joining the crew and she's like, that plant's poisonous, those berries are poisonous, and that snake is a snake, or your belt is a snake, and it's also poisonous. I thought that was fun. And I also like Otto replying that her attitude is poisonous. I think I'm going to give my MVJ to Lisa, just because I think in the 3 segments, she was the most consistently funny. But I also like the outer world of the episode in the library. I thought there was a lot of fun jokes there. But as we kind of do with these 3-part episodes, how would you rank them?
Is it biased because we're Pacific Northwesterners, and then I would say 2, the Sacagawea one, just because that's our history.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's interesting because the first 2 segments are very English, Anglo-Saxon-y, European stories. This one's the Americans' story.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just going to stick with what I know, and that's America's better than everyone else. So I'll stick with the Sacagawea one, followed by, I think, the Mozart one, and then I'm going to say Henry VIII. It's probably obvious we've talked about how we're kind of indifferent towards these type of episodes, and some can be a lot of fun. But these episodes, for me, it's like, I just got home from school, or it's Sunday, I don't want to go, this is the time period, when you're a kid. I don't want to go to school because I got to learn stuff. And then The Simpsons is my escape. And now they're making me learn. And yes, there's jokes. That being said, I would skip this episode. It's not one of my favorites. And that is because I'm not always a fan of the storytelling. And I think you're right about the segments with Marge. Actually, it's pretty good. I like the wrap-ups.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's set up, how no one goes to libraries anymore. It's solid. So I think the actual Springfield stories are great. Again, we're not allowed to watch Simpsons Bible stories, but from memory serves, I feel like Simpsons Bible stories is a little bit better than this episode. But if I had to give this a ranking, Steve, and I do.
You do.
Sadly, Sacagawea was only 24 years old when she died. It's a very young age. So out of 24, I'll give this episode the age that she was when she helped good old Lewis and Clark. And that was 16 or 17. So I'll give this episode a 16, Steve, out of 24.
All right.
Maybe that's why they don't have a movie based on Lewis and Clark, because there's she was 13 when she was sold to a non-consensual marriage
to
the trapper, which they do mention in that segment, played by Milhouse.
Right.
And then had a kid a year after that.
Ugh.
Fucking Canadians.
What are you talking about, eh? Come on, guys. Be better. I also have that bias about Lewis and Clark, and I think that was my favorite. However, I think I would go that one first, and then Henry VIII. The Mozart one was the weakest. However, I do think that they all kind of worked, but I was more drawn to the wraparounds with Marge and the kids in the vacant library. That was just more fun. When we first started doing this podcast, we were kind of, especially me taking notes, was really kind of scared about these 3-part episodes, and we've been doing this for a little over 5 years. We know how to approach them, and we know how to talk about them, but still, this one kind of felt a little bit like a slog. You mentioned about it feeling like, homework. I feel like the education to comedy ratio wasn't exactly there. I realize that our podcast is definitely guilty of that as well, but I just think that this one is probably a miss for me too. I guess what the positives I will say is that there were some fun jokes, and at the time in 2004, maybe the mass populace didn't know all about Lewis and Clark or Henry VIII or Mozart and Salieri, so maybe viewers then did learn something, but I just didn't take away a lot from this episode from these more modern viewings. So yeah, this is a soft skip. I wasn't offended by this episode, but it just seems like something that I don't know that I'd really come back to and visit. And so, as I showed, King Henry VIII had 6 wives, so I'm going to give this a 2 wives out of 6. And those would be, of course, Catherine Howard and Anne Boleyn, the 2 that he had beheaded.
And is that your goal in life, too? Is to have 2 wives eventually?
Yeah, but they can behead me because, I don't like to do stuff.
How's that going to work?
Well, the first one will tie me up and the second one will drop the guillotine, I guess. I don't know.
All right. So, Laura, your first wife, and Melania, your second wife.
Exactly. All right, Craig. Well, that's all we have to talk about for Margical History Tour. But next week is another week, and we're still not ready for new episodes, so we got to find out what we're going to watch. And to do that, we're going to need our good friend, the Wheel of Random. So let's give it a spin to see which season we're in. Ba-doop! All right, we have season 26.
Wow, 26.
Wow, yeah. So let's give it another spin to see which episode we're watching. Ba-doop! Episode 22.
Ooh, season 26, episode 22. It's everyone's favorite episode, Steve. You know why?
Why is that?
Because I know the title of it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. This one was called Margical History Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Based off, of course, the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour. So I think this episode, of course, will be another reference to another Beatles album. And that, of course, is Rubber Soul. That's why this episode was called Rub Her Dough.
That does sound like a very enticing episode, Rub Her Dough.
Well, it's Rub Her Annoyed Grunt.
Right. But sadly, that's not next week, maybe another week, because the one that we're watching next week is entitled Mathlete's Feet. What do you think that's about, Craig?
Well, the word math has to do with numbers.
Indeed.
And feet is short for feature, but it's also play on the word athlete's foot, which means the story probably has numbers in it, or it features numbers. So I'm going to say Maggie turns out to be a genius at math, like that Good Will Hunting kid, or that Russell Crowe.
Oh, yeah, with the beautiful mind.
Yeah, so I think Bart is doing his math homework, and Maggie just comes over and starts scribbling on his papers, and it turns out she writes all these numbers, and they're correct. And then Lisa's like, wait, that's just a coincidence. So she puts down her homework, and Maggie gets those math questions right. And then she takes a very scientific equation. It's one of those that takes 4 pages to write out, the answer to show your whole work. And so Maggie does that. And so they sell her to Russia.
Wow.
And Russia uses Maggie to create nuclear weapons, ends up killing everyone.
Whoa.
And in the B story, Marge and Homer open a coffee shop.
Oh, that sounds like fun. But Craig, you're close to being right, except for the fact that you're wrong, because Mathlete's Feet is about Lisa transforming Springfield Elementary into a Waldorf school, and groundskeeper Willie coaching the mathletes. This episode originally aired on May 17th, 2015. Do you have any memory of this?
Let me see. May 17th. I'm looking at my journal.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Me neither.
All right. I'm good with that.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to hear what this is all about. And we're also excited that you listen, and we're excited to hear from you, dear listener. And hey, if you want to reach out to us, you can contact us on our socials, like your Instagram, your Threads, or your YouTubes at 13simpsons, and you can always email us at 13simpsons@gmail.com.
And leave a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever the equivalent is. Make it 5 stars or whatever stars they use. But you don't need to write a real review. You don't have that much time. Instead, just let us know what your favorite beheaded queen was. And that's not all we ask of you. We also ask if you want some merch, go to tpublic.com/user/annoyedgruntboys for said merch.
That's right. Alrighty. Thank you again so much for listening. For this week, I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Steve.
And I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Craig.
And remember, everyone who ever lived is boring.
Cover your nakedness and worship our Lord.
Animal House, house, house. Nobody ever went to class. Then we saw Donald Sutherland's ass.